guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I kind of wanted to do like a recap of all of my anticipated reads for this year. And so I kind of want to like break this up into different parts. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was all of the books from my anticipated reads video that I did at the beginning of the year. I wanted to just go over all of the books that I was able to get to so far and kind of tell you guys how I rated them and give you like a brief reasoning for my ratings and a brief, synopsis over the book, in case anyone has missed any of the videos where I have talked about these books. And then I will talk about the books that I have not yet read but still am looking forward to reading, and then the books that I maybe no longer want to read anymore, and then the books that I have recently added to my anticipated reads for this year because they are coming out later in the year. And then I think I have like a book or two that has those books have been pushed to the early part of next year, so I also want to mention those. So this will just be like a casual video. I will have timestamps for this video so that you guys can click around if you are just interested in other sections of this. So we will go ahead and get started with the books that I have already read. So as far as the books that I have already read, we will start off with the two books that were on my most anticipated reads for this year that I have DNF'd. The first one that we're going to start off with is The Book of Night by Holly Black. And I just DNF'd this one because I just thought it was boring. I ended up getting only like 60 pages into this one. I was not connecting with this one at all. I thought it was going to be like one of those books that I would pick up later on in the year, maybe next year, at a time when I was just feeling it more. But the reviews aren't getting any better for this one. So I think it's probably going to be a book that I'm just going to unhaul and just not worry about, unfortunately. But this one really pains me because I was so interested in this one, especially the magic system having to deal with like shadows. But that was like the one thing I was so confused about was the magic system. And I just didn't care enough to try to figure it out when I was reading it. So I just had to DNF it. The next one that I DNF'd was How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. And this one, I think, was more on me why I DNF'd this one because my expectations were all out of whack when I went into this one. And I mentioned this several times so far on my channel that I'm having a real bad luck when it comes to picking up some of these books and not realizing that they are short story collections. And this is one of them. I did not realize that this was going to be a collection of like short stories. I do think though that these are like all intertwined in some sort of way, but I just could not get into this. It had like all of the makings of something that I thought that I would really love because I believe it was like set in the future. It has something to do with a virus. Virus is like one of my buzzwords. And I just, for whatever reason, like I could not get into this one. I think the concepts of this was just too far, like they were just too out there for me to grasp. And I didn't enjoy it. Now, this is like one of those books that a lot of people have been enjoying. It's just something that I could not get on board with. And I did end up giving this to one of my friends who I thought would enjoy it. So unfortunately, this is just one that it just didn't work for me. Now, out of those anticipated reads, I did have one that I actually rated a 1 star. And that was 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. And this is an adult mystery thriller novel, and I do have a standalone review for this one. And obviously with it being 1 star, I did not like this book. And just to sum it up real quick about what this one is about, it's just about these 9 strangers. Their names are all put on this list, and slowly they are being picked off one by one and being killed. And oh, Jesus. I did not like this at all. To be fair, a lot of people didn't like this one, but even though people don't like something, I really tried to go into it with an open mind, because even if they don't like it, I might very well enjoy it. But nope. I was with the majority on this one, and I did not like it. I did not like the characters. Some of their choices just did not make sense to me. I did not like the reveal at the end, and then how everything was like explained. That did not make sense to me. I did not like the audiobook and how they kept repeating the names on the list. That was so annoying. Needless to say, I did not like anything about this book. The only reason why I even kept listening to this book was because it was less than 8 hours. So I was like, I'm not going to waste that much time listening to this. So I'm just going to see it through. Maybe it'll have some redeeming qualities to it. No, it didn't. So yeah, this was the only one so far out of my anticipated releases that got a 1 star from me. But this probably should have been a DNF. But yeah, 1 star. I do have quite a few books that had a 2-star rating from me for my most anticipated reads. First one that we're going to talk about is Ashes of Gold by J.Elle, which is the second book in the duology for The Wings of Ebony. And this was really disappointing because Wings of Ebony, I actually gave it 5 stars, and it was one of my best books of last year. And so needless to say, this was really one of my most anticipated releases for this year. And I'm not going to really go into too much of what this is about since this is the second book of the duology, but I just did not like where the character of Rue went at the start of this book. I just did not like where the plot of the story went. There was like this odd love triangle. I just was dissatisfied with a lot of what the story did, and it was just like a huge letdown for me. Again, it was like I talked about this book in greater detail in, I think, like a duology review, so I'll probably have that linked. But yeah, this was a big disappointment for me. So then the next one that got us 2 stars for me, which I was actually kind of surprised with, and that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. And this one so in a nutshell, this one is about this girl by the name of Jess who is trying to stay with her brother Ben because she is kind of like a drifter is what I would consider her as. She kind of just moves from place to place. She needed a place to stay. She was going to stay with her brother Ben. She gets to her brother Ben's apartment. He's missing. She doesn't know where he went. She's trying to find him. And in this apartment building, she realizes that his neighbors are pretty weird. She soon realizes that they might have something to do with his disappearance. And so we're following her as she's trying to figure out what exactly happened to Ben and if the neighbors had something to do with it. In theory, this sounded like something that should have been really good to me because it's set in this like apartment building and the characters were kind of sketchy, but it was so slow. Nothing happened for like almost 100 pages, and I almost DNF'd it. Again, this was almost DNF'd, but I stuck it out. And then when something started to happen, it was really unbelievable. And then like Ben's character was just so unbelievable because I just couldn't believe that he had the effect that he had on all of these neighbors. And like a lot of their actions just didn't make sense. This was a hot mess to me. Now, this is like one of those ones where people either really liked it or they didn't. So, I mean, take my review for what it's worth. But I couldn't get on board with this one. And this was, like I said, it was surprising because I was really excited about this one. I was so excited about like just the setting of this like, you know, creepy apartment with these creepy neighbors. It fell apart at a certain point. So yeah, that one got a 2 stars from me. So then the next one that got a 2 stars that I recently read was The House Across the Lake by Mr. Riley Sager. So in a nutshell, this one is just about this actress by the name of Casey who is staying at her lake house because she's trying to get away from the public so that she can grieve her husband that has recently died. And while she's at the lake house, she notices that a couple has moved in across the lake, and she ends up forming a friendship with the wife, who's an ex-model, because the wife, Catherine, was drowning in the lake. Casey goes and saves her. They form a friendship. Casey has started to spy on the neighbors across the lake by using these binoculars. One day she notices that Catherine goes missing and suspects that it's Catherine's husband, Tom. And so the story kind of takes off from there, with Casey trying to figure out what happened to Catherine. In the beginning, I really did like this story. I think I liked the first 75% of this. Then Sager took this book in a direction that it did not need to go in. If it was going to go in that direction, he needed to do a lot more explaining, and these characters needed to do a lot of different things than what they did, because it just did not make sense. So I ended up giving this one a 2 stars. Was not a fan. So far, out of the books that I have read from him, which I think is 4 books at this point, this is my lowest rated one. I know everybody did not like, well, not everybody, but a majority of people did not like Survive the Night. Surprisingly, I liked this worse than Survive the Night. So yeah, this one got a 2 stars for me. The last one out of my most anticipated reads that got a 2 stars for me, that I've mentioned several times at this point on my channel, is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. And this is supposed to be a twist on the original The Island of Dr. Moreau. And I'm not going to go into too much explanation of what this is supposed to be about, but this one got a 2 stars for me because I honestly thought it was boring. Again, this is another one of those books that I almost DNF'd. That's the theme with these. I almost DNF'd them. And I just thought a majority of this, nothing happened. Nothing happened until the last 100 pages. To be honest, the last 100 pages I thought was really good. And if the tone of that last 100 pages is what we got throughout this entire story, I would have freaking loved this book. But yeah, no, that's not what we got. So this book got a 2 stars because of it. So not my favorite. Jumping into my 3 stars for my most anticipated reads, we're going to start with Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is supposed to be an adult contemporary romance, I guess. And a lot of people really enjoyed this one. I thought it was fine. So in a nutshell, this is just following 2 sisters, the main sister being Nora, but her and her little sister Libby go off on vacation because Libby is pregnant. She wants to spend some more time with her older sister Nora before she gives birth. So they go off somewhere to spend some more time with each other. While they're there, Nora runs into her rival, Charlie. They both work in the publishing world. I think Nora, what was she? Somebody's an editor. Hold on. Nora is a literary agent. Charlie is an editor. So yeah, they work in the publishing world. So they are rivals. They end up they're supposed to have this rivalry, and they end up, kind of going back and forth a little bit, and then a romance ensues. That's what this is supposed to be about. But I mean, it was fine. It's really more about the relationship between Nora and her sister, which I wasn't expecting. I mean, I did like that aspect of the book, but that's not really what I was here for. I was really here for Nora and Charlie. And what I really wanted from Nora and Charlie was more of this rivalry that I thought we were supposed to be getting. But it was kind of, in my opinion, insta-lovey, because as soon as they end up seeing each other, they were kind of all over each other. I mean, it's fine. There was some cute moments, but I kind of wanted them to fight a little bit more, argue a little bit more, something. But I mean, it was fine. Then the other 3-star book that I have is The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. Okay, so I don't know if I can explain this one real fast, but this one is just told in 2 different timelines. In the past, we have these these two kids that are being raised by their grandmother. Their grandmother works at this psychiatric hospital. She ends up bringing this little girl home as part of like an experiment, and she kind of tells her grandchildren that the little girl doesn't talk, and when she talks, let the grandmother know, and the grandmother will take it from there. But these two, her grandchildren, are like these monster hunters. They have like a little monster hunter book, and that's their thing. In the present, we are following this woman by the name of Lizzie, and she has this podcast where she is following like monster sightings. She is currently looking for this girl that has gone missing because of like this monster sighting in Vermont, where I believe where she used to live, and Lizzie knows that monsters are real. So this is essentially what this is about. I had read something from Jennifer McMahon previously. It was Winter People, which I really enjoyed. So I went into this thinking that I was really going to enjoy this. I did enjoy it for the most part. I thought that this was going to give me more of the creepy vibes that I got from Winter People. This was not so much that. And this also did like the dual timeline that Winter People did. And in Winter People, that one, I enjoyed both of the timelines. This one, I enjoyed only one of the timelines, and that was the timeline from the past. See, that's my thing when people do two timelines. I feel like if you're going to do them, I'm hoping that I enjoy both of them, because that kind of takes down my enjoyment for the book. Because while I'm in one timeline, if I'm in the timeline that I don't like, I'm like counting down the time till I get to the timeline that I do like. But I did like some aspects of this because, like I said, those grandchildren, they were quote unquote monster hunters. So they had like this book where they were like writing down like all their monster sightings. So we got to see like parts of their monster book. We got clips of like newspaper articles and whatnot of like things that were going on at the psychiatric hospital. There was like this mystery going on with this girl that the grandmother brought home. So there were definitely aspects of this that I did enjoy, but the overall mystery, it was fine, especially the thing that got revealed in like the present timeline. Not really sure how I felt about that, but overall I thought this was on the higher side of 3, but I did enjoy this. I still really like Jennifer McMahon. I have a couple of her other books that I really want to get to, but I thought this was fine. So these next few books are all the books that I have rated 4 stars from my most anticipated releases, and I have a few of those. The first one being Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shauna McGuire, and this is the 7th book in the Wayward Children series, and obviously I really enjoyed this one. The first few books, I think like the first 3 books in that series, I read physically, and then all the books after that I was listening to on audiobook, and I really enjoyed these on audio, and I probably will continue to pick these up on audio from here on out. I made a not standalone review for this, but like I think I did a review for the first 3 and then the next 4. Yeah. And so I highly recommended listening to these on audio. So again, I will say, if you're going to pick this up, pick it up on audio. But in this one, we are following some of the same characters from the other books. And this one is, if you don't know anything about the series, the Wayward, it's following the school for children who have gone to like different portal worlds. And in this one, we are actually, one of the characters has gone to a different school that kind of is doing the same thing, but that school is a little bit more sinister. And I really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the characters. We're introduced to a few different characters that actually go to that school. And I just like seeing some of the other characters come together. And I like the audiobooks because of how like they do the voices and how it's narrated. So I essentially really enjoyed this one. The next one that we have is Gallant by V.E. Schwab that I rated 4 stars. And this is a young adult gothic horror, I guess you would say. And so in a nutshell, this one is about this young girl by the name of Olivia, I believe. Yep, Olivia, and she stays at like this all girls school, and she ends up getting summoned to live with one of her relatives, and she doesn't know, like, she's never known her parents, and she's always kept one of her mother's journals, and in that journal it tells her that she is not supposed to go to this relative's house that is called Gallant, and she ends up going anyways. And she realizes that this residence, it has a lot going on, and it's more than what it seems, and it's really creepy. The whole time that I was reading this, it just reminded me of like a young adult version of Mexican Gothic. And I feel like I said this in whatever video I reviewed this in, that if you liked Mexican Gothic, then I feel like you might enjoy this one. And I did enjoy this. It is one of those books that I feel like is really fast paced. Once you pick it up, you're probably not going to want to put it down. You can probably finish this in like a sitting or two. A lot of it has a lot of drawings and whatnot. Some of it barely has like any writing on it. So it looks like this. So you could definitely finish this really quickly. But I really enjoyed this one. It's definitely a good time to pick this up if you are looking for like fall time reads. This would be a really good one to pick up. So I would highly recommend. I don't pick up a lot of V.E. Schwab's works, but this is a good one. My last 4-star read that I had from my anticipated reads is a book of cold cases by Simone St. James, which is an adult mystery novel. And this is my first book by this author. And after reading this one, definitely plan on picking up more. And so this is also told in like a dual timeline. So we have one of our main characters by the name of Shay, who runs like this true crime website, which is called the Book of Cold Cases, and she is looking into the case of this woman who is known as the Lady Killer. And so we are following both timelines, Shay, as she is looking into this case, and then we're looking into the past of what happened when the Lady Killer was like active. And so, like I said, it's an adult mystery book, but it also has like this paranormal aspect to it, which I really enjoyed. Overall, I just really enjoyed this book. From a lot of the reviews that I've seen, a lot of people really enjoyed this one. The only negative that I've seen for this, I think, if I can remember correctly, is that the paranormal aspect might not work for everybody, but it definitely worked for me. And that was one of my favorite things about it, because it was something that I was not expecting. So I really enjoyed this one. And then the last book that I have already read for my most anticipated releases that I highly enjoyed and rated a 5 stars is The Hacienda by Isabel Cienes. And this one is an adult horror novel, and this follows our main character by the name of Beatrice, who has gone to stay with her husband named Rodolfo at his hacienda. And while she is staying there, she basically realizes that the hacienda is haunted. That's all I'm going to say in a nutshell. One of the critiques I see about this one is that it is slow. It is, I guess, I mean, it is slow, but it's not slow to where nothing is happening. There are things happening. It is told in like 2 different perspectives. So we're following Beatrice's perspective and also the perspective of Andreas, which you would know who that is when you pick this up, and you will learn how that is all connected. But I thought this book was fantastic, especially when things really start to happen and when things start moving. It definitely is very creepy, and I really love a good horror story when not only are like things that are scary are happening, but when it's just a darn good story that is behind why things are happening. And that is exactly what you get in here. Just an overall good story. And I just liked how it ended. So this is definitely one of those ones that I hope that I can get to again this fall, because I read this came out in the summer, I believe. And this was one of the ones I read it as soon as I got it. So I'm hoping that I can get to it again in the fall, because this is definitely another one of those good fall time reads. So if you have not gotten to this one, you plan on it, it's on your TBR, I would definitely get to this one, because this was fantastic. Again, a 5-star read. So then moving on to the books that I had on my anticipated reads list that I have not gotten to, that I'm still looking forward to getting to. One of the ones that I still want to get to that I just don't have a physical copy yet is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. And this is supposed to be a young adult horror novel. And this one follows this brother who was a twin, and his twin sister horrifically died, I believe at like some sort of summer academy. So he wants to attend this summer academy in her place to try and figure out what happened. This sounds really good. The reviews on Goodreads have been really good. So I'm still really excited to get to this one. And I think it just recently came out. That's why I don't have a physical copy of this one yet. But I'm excited to get to this one, and I just learned that it was actually horror. I don't think I realized it was a horror novel. So I'm really excited to get to this one, and hopefully it's something that I can get to this fall. Another one that I want to get to soon still is The Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. Actually, I've tried to listen to this one on audio. It wasn't working out for me, so I just kind of put it down. This is another one that I learned was some short stories that I did not realize. Again, I don't know why I keep doing that, but I read Station 11 earlier this year, so that's why I wanted to pick this one up. Again, it has one of my buzzwords. It has something to do with like a virus or something, I'm pretty sure. Something about the audiobook just wasn't connecting with me when I tried to pick it up on audio, so that's why I just put it down. But I still want to pick this one up. I know it like jumps around with timelines and whatnot. A lot of people said they really enjoyed this one, but this one I think I just want to read slowly with my eyeballs. So I'm gonna have to pick this up when I have time to do that, and I don't feel like I'm at that point yet. So hopefully though by the end of the year. Another one that I just recently got is Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Austin. And this is the second book to Amari and the Knight brothers. Not going to say too much about this one since it is the second book in, I think, what is going to be a series. So, like I said, I just got this one. I think originally it was supposed to come out earlier in the year, but this one got pushed back till now. So still hoping that I can get to this one. I'll probably try and pick this one up on audiobook. But yeah, hopefully I can get to this one by the end of the year. Another one that I'm hoping that I can get to by the end of the year is Karen Slaughter, Girl Forgotten. Funny story about this one is that I did not realize that this was like the second book in, I don't know if it's like a duology or a series, but somebody, thanks Alicia, pointed out to me that this was the second, like I said, the second book, and this comes after Pieces of Her, which I have, and it did not dawn on me that those two books were together. So clearly I have to read Pieces of Her before I can get to this one. So not sure when I'll get to this, but I'm hoping by the end of the year. Then we have Ordinary Monsters by J.Elle Moreau. This was one of my, again, really most anticipated releases for this year. It was between this and Babel that I was supposed to try and read next, but I think I mentioned this in like my most recent book haul, but I had put a poll up on my Instagram between this and Babel 1. So I'm currently reading Babel. So hopefully I can read this one next, maybe, depending on how Babel goes and if I want to jump into a chunker. But yeah, hopefully I can get to this one next. And then the last one that was currently already on my most anticipated releases list for this year was It Girl, or The It Girl by Ruth Ware. Again, this is one that I'm hoping that I can get to by the end of the year. We shall see. So then I have two books that I have put on my most anticipated reads that I'm not sure I'm going to get to, and I'm not really sure I'm in a rush or want to get to anymore. The first one being This Might Hurt by Stephanie Warble. And this is the same author that wrote Darling Rose Gold like a year or two ago, which I do have. And I do have an e-copy of This Might Hurt. And I guess the reason why I'm not really sure I'm like looking forward to this one or the next one that I'm going to talk about is because I just haven't really heard good things, and they have low ratings on Goodreads, so I'm like, I'm not really sure. But then, like I said, just because those have low ratings doesn't mean that I'm not gonna like it. This Might Hurt, I believe, has something to do with like a cult, and cult is one of my buzzwords. So I did go ahead and get an e-copy on my Kindle. So I still might pick that up, but it's just not one that like I'm in a rush to pick up like my other one. And then the other one is Tell Me an Ending by Joe Harkin, which is an adult science fiction. And this one has to do with people's memories being removed. Again, I've seen like a couple of reviews that just haven't been all that great, and it has a lower rating on Goodreads. I don't have a copy of this one, and not really sure if I'm going to pick this one up this year or if it's just going to be one of those ones that if I happen to get my hands on it, I will. Just not sure. Not really sure what I'm going to do. So then moving on to the books that I have recently added to my most anticipated reads for this year. I haven't added too many more books this year just because there are some books that I'm like interested in, but as far as like my most anticipated reads for this year, I don't have that many. The first one being Babel by R.F. Kuang. I just started, well, I just didn't start it, but I am currently reading this one. I'm just under 100 pages into this one. At this point, I think everyone and their mama is reading this book, but so far, I'm really enjoying it. It's just following this boy by the name of Robin, who at this point is attending Oxford University, and he's being raised by this Professor Lovell. I think something is going on with that, not really sure. But he's being raised by this guy by the name of Professor Lovell. After his mother died from a plague, he is now attending Oxford University. This book deals a lot with language, words. There is some slight magic in here. It has something to do with silver making. I'm starting to learn what that is at this point in the story. So, like I said, I'm not that far into it, but the parts that I am into it is interesting, it's intriguing. I'm enjoying it so far. So then another book that I recently added to my list is Do You Take This Man by Denise Williams. And she has become one of my like favorite romance authors. And this is a adult romance book. And this one, I believe, is an enemies to lovers trope about an event planner turned wedding officiant that is going to start a romance with a pro football player manager. So we'll see how that goes. But pretty much anything Denise Williams comes out with is going to be something that I'm going to pick up. The next one that just came out is by Tiffany D. Jackson, and that is The Weight of Blood, which is supposed to be like a young adult mystery horror novel. And it has something to do with like something that happens at this school that is hosting its first integrated prom. So it's already that says a lot right there. So I've only read one thing by Tiffany D. Jackson, which was Grown, which I thought that was fine. I had some thoughts about that, but I've read a short story collection that had something written in there by her, which I enjoyed. And this one just sounded really interesting. Just from some early reviews, some people have really been enjoying it, so I'm really excited to see how I will feel about that one. Next up, we have Gleanings from Neil Schusterman, which is supposed to be a part of the Arc of the Scythe series, which that series was completed a couple of years ago at this point. But Gleanings, I believe, is supposed to be like a short story collection set in that world. And I believe that comes out like sometime in November. And I have already pre-ordered that, which I'm so excited to read that. I think I've already mentioned this, but once that book comes out, I'm probably going to drop everything and pick that up because I loved the Arc of the Scythe series. So I'm so excited for that. And then the next one is 5 Survive, which is by Holly Jackson, and this is supposed to be like a young adult crime mystery novel, and this is the same author who wrote the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which I absolutely loved. And I'm really excited about this. I think that comes out sometime in November as well, and I of course already pre-ordered that. And this is like supposed to be set like in an RV, and I think people are like getting picked off, so it sounded great. I had to pick that up, so I definitely cannot wait for that one either. And then the last book that I wanted to talk about that actually got pushed back to the beginning of January of 2023, and that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. It was supposed to come out, I believe, this past summer, but like I said, it got pushed back to early next year. And I've read a lot of Grady Hendrix work, and I've loved a lot of that stuff, and so I was really sad when it got pushed back, but it did. All I know is it's supposed to be an adult horror novel, and that's all I want to know. I literally have not looked up what that is supposed to be about. I just saw that he was coming out with another novel. I was like, I need to have it. I will probably most likely pre-order that. I have not pre-ordered it just because it's a little far out at this point. So I probably will wait a little bit to get that one, but I am looking forward to that. So that is all of the books that I have to talk about. So we went over all of the books that I've already read and what I rated them, the ones that I'm still looking forward to, the ones not looking so forward to, the ones I've added in, the ones that I had pushed back. So if I have done like any individual reviews or anything that I can pick out quickly, I will have those videos linked down below if you guys are interested in my more in-depth thoughts over these books. But other than that, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.